Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I have a minute and I thought I would sit down and do a little podcast for you guys. I'm going to try and keep this tight, as I always do. And some of the questions that have been coming through have been really cool. So I am saving some of them up for a Q&A, which would be good. But for now, I'm going to keep this topic straightforward. And the topic at hand today that I'm going to be talking and sharing with you today is finding your path. What is your path? What are you doing? Where are you going? Who are you? What do you want? These things are all interconnected. And let's just put some stuff on the table straight right now, okay? If you've been following me and you know a little bit about me and you know about my work, I am very much a free spirit, okay? I don't follow systems or structures so much. I've got a double placement in Sagittarius. My moon got a lot of Aries there as well. So I'm very much renowned for just doing my own thing, you know. And that being said, in direct answer to the question at hand, how did I come onto this path? That is it's a simple question. It's a simple question to answer, but it is also quite complex. Your path, or my path, speaking directly from my experience, because this is my path that I'm talking from, by the way, I can't share information on someone else's path because that's not mine. My path is unique. Your path is also very, very unique. Okay, there are no two paths in existence that are the same. That's not even possible. We can find people that we resonate with. We can find people that we feel connected to, that will share the same interests as us. And that's fine. But also know that everyone's spiritual journey and everyone's time here is alone. And I know people like to say, oh, we've all got, our soul tribes and our groups and stuff. You are born alone and you will die alone. Okay, that is certain. We can travel in herds with groups, particularly pertaining to people that resonate with us. But know that your path is not theirs and theirs is not yours. So what it really comes down to personally is, what is your flavor? What is your style? What gets you fucking juiced? What excites you about the craft? What excites you about coming to this? What's your reasoning behind this? So if you don't know, by the way, let's just get this straight. If you don't know who you are, there is nothing on earth that anyone outside of you can do to help you. You have to have a sense of self and believe in that sense of self, because the power of your magic and how far it can go out when you cast energy out into the universes, is directly proportionate to your level of self-belief. So what I'm saying here is that a very weak, skilled occultist, magician, spiritual practitioner, whatever you want, I don't care what it is, whatever you want to call yourself with, whatever it is, whatever little banner or label you want to slap on yourself, your or their ability will only be directly proportionate to their level of ability based off experience, based off practice, and based off confidence, based off their strength. And the strength of your path will be based on your will. Now, in this universes, you can't actually lie to spirit. You cannot lie to the spiritual world. You can call yourself a witch, but you're not a witch. You can call yourself a Satanist, but you're not really following that path. And the spiritual world knows that, because when you're in alignment with the spiritual world and with your path, that's when things can actually start happening for you. Okay? So, for me personally, finding my path was really simple. I always just had a sense of knowing that the church was bullshit and that it was a business, and always kind of being able to kind of feel out and see that the truth of things usually kind of stands alone, away from the majority. And I never grew up in a religious household at all, but I remember I had like religious education at public primary school that I went to here in Australia. And I could just see that there was something energetically in my heart, sitting right in my solar plexus, that something felt very, very off here. There was beautiful teachings that had a sense of morality and lessons and things like that. Like, not everything in the Bible is terrible. In fact, a lot of it's really, really quite interesting and quite beautiful. But I knew that man would fuck it up. And so there is beauty in Christ consciousness. Now, I am on the left-hand path. Now, I understand fragmentation and integration, proactive ascension, and of course the opposite of that, which is, regressive ascension. I understand it. And I don't dabble with this either. And I'll get onto that later in this podcast. But I just knew that it was a business, and that if everyone thought the same way, they could pull more money from people if everyone was on the same page. And there was never any room for question. It was always stand here, repeat after me, and if you say what I said, then you pass, kind of thing. Which already as a kid, just alarm bells would go off in my head about that. Because that's really, I don't really see religious as religion as religion. I see it as kind of the word, and some people might get triggered, but I actually see this word, I see the word religion to me. I actually like to swap that word around with the word programming. It is programming. And think about it, when you've got people out there that aren't following a system and aren't standing in line, this kind of punishment and reward stuff, that's very hard to tax them and draw money out of that, So we know the Catholic Church is the biggest commercial conglomerate in the world, or one of them. It even has its own country. But I don't know what they actually do for the world. What the fuck do they actually do for the world? There are so many incongruent discrepancies in that system that it's actually overwhelming. And so I believe that Christ consciousness is connection of all things, or connected, and it's kindness and it's love and compassion, which, by the way, is what we're actually here for. But I don't feel that man understood that. We know that when Jesus died, that was a ritual that he performed when he sacrificed himself in that position, that he gave himself up so that he could have that ritual be completed to the world. And it shifted the world into Christ consciousness. But before that time, and if we've got to go back in the history books and go before, way back, way back in the day, there was earth worship. There were pagans. There were mystics that were connected to all different types of groups. And most of all, not making up a god outside of this planet, they were connected to nature, the spiritual world. And that's where I always kind of felt connected. So I grew up in the country, and the city to me was this kind of dark, scary, wicked world, like a jungle of concrete and man-made things, loud noises that didn't feel right or felt really like foreign to me. And growing up in the country, looking back at it now, it really was the best place for me to grow up. I learnt about life. I learnt about nature. And I could feel from just being a kid that there was this, now I'm getting onto the journey stage, there was an undercurrent, or I call it the current. Sometimes I call it the dark current, a current of energy that is operating, that is unseen, but it is the basis of all physical things. And I just instinctively knew that this was around us. And I was very interested in the why of things. Why do we have to do this? Why do we go to work? I could see the whole world going on around me, and everyone was going to work and everyone was so busy trying to make money to feed the kids or pay off the house or get a car or whatever and all be a part of this world. But it really disturbed me, and it still does. It terrifies me to this day when there's no why and there's no questioning of the why are we doing this. Now, the best advice I can give you if you're in an explorative state, I guess, is always come back to the why. And how does this make you feel in your heart? That's the best guidance I can give. It doesn't matter what path you're on, that is the truth. So as a kid, I would go out, hiking around local hills, playing in rivers, and I had no fear of the natural world. The natural world and the spiritual world, right back in the day, they just fascinate me. Humans terrify me. Humans freak me out. The spiritual world doesn't freak me out. I actually feel more comfortable connecting to spirits than I do to humans. And I may do a video on my reasoning for that, but I can share with you, as you start to go higher and higher in consciousness, the gap between you and other people will become further and further away. So if they're not able to receive you, you may as well be speaking in Swahili. You may as well be speaking in a different language, because they are not going to be able to understand you. And remember, you can't actually integrate something on a real deep level that is real if you can't even understand the being that is before you. And same goes for me with other beings out there as well. I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, so a lot of assault, a lot of bad adults that abused their power. And I carried a lot of anger built on the hurt of that. And so, of course, when you are young and you feel powerless, we want to go into a place that makes us feel powerful. So remember, in order to have the desire of something, we have to have the absence of something. Remember polarity? I did a video talking about polarity. For everything that there is something that you don't want, there has to be something that you do want. And so I began to see and feel types and patterns of energies of people. This was more pertaining to their astrological DNA or just kind of how they operate. And you can see the energy of people. We're all little bits of each other, all mixed together. Like everyone's got their own unique little kind of combination, like a drink, like a cocktail. Everyone's cocktail is different, but it's all poured from the same things, the same, drinks, the Godhead, if you will. By the way, when I say Godhead, I'm not talking about God, okay? I'm talking about the universe. I'm talking about source. We're all fractals of source, expressing ourselves back to each other and learning through each other, okay? But I would go out into nature and I could feel that current. Or I'd go out into the ocean and I would swim really, really far out there away from everyone. I had no fear. Looking back now, it was actually quite dangerous. But I knew that if I remained calm and I, went out in the ocean, that I would be okay. I wasn't going to get panicky. I wasn't going to let myself drown. But what I was trying to do was I could feel this heartbeat, like boom, 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 boom. And the more that I focus on that, or focused on that as a kid, the more connected I started to become to it. And of course, when you're a kid, kids are like magical times 100. They're very, very intuitive. They're like catnip to the spiritual world, by the way, especially to spirits. And so I used to see things and feel things. I used to have like imaginary characters, but looking back now, they weren't imaginary. There really was a spirit in the mirror. Looking back now, that bird that was like looking at me and I could hear its thoughts or its energy behind it, that wasn't in my head. It was real. And as you get older, that kind of gets beaten out of you, like the magic gets beaten out of you, and then you kind of have to be socialized. And we go through that process called socialization, where we have to stand here, stand in line, do what I say, follow the rules kind of thing. But I was always interested in making art. So art is a really big part of my journey on this path, and shapes and drawing things and making like symbols. Now, I used to collect animal bones as a kid as well. I didn't really understand why I did it, but I just knew that it was something very sacred. It's like another being's life force was in this. And we'd go camping, and I remember, we used to go camping along a river called the King River, which was a beautiful little river along this farmland in a caravan. And it was very feral, which was great. And I'm really glad that my mum and dad just let me be that way, because I was just so off my head a lot of the time, off in off in space, like off in a different world. And that was really a big part of me coming into, finding my inner artist, I guess. But there was a dead cow that had fallen into thick mud and had got stuck, and I'd say it had died there. And for whatever reason, it had been there for a while. And I came across it in my little, adventure, my little hike. And it wasn't too far from the campsite for where we were staying. And of course, it was me coming to terms with this beautiful animal that had died. And I just wanted to honor it. I didn't understand what I was doing, but I remember, this is getting a little bit graphic, but I'd ripped off its leg. I remember it kind of came off very easily because it was still in that kind of that decompositional state. And you could see that all these other animals and bugs and flies were just eating this animal. And it was kind of like me understanding the natural order of returning back to source. Because we're merely visitors here, really. Okay, we all go back to source, yeah. When we die, our body gets burned, is buried, gets destroyed, and then we go back. What really matters in the world is what's going on in the spirit. Yeah, that's why when there's no presence of spirit in a person, it's all a complete waste of time. If you meet someone, by the way, off this topic for a little bit, if you meet someone and there is no presence of heart, there is no presence of spirit, you get the fuck away from them, okay? They are not going to do you any favors, yeah? So I grabbed the leg and I brought it back to the camp, and my mum was freaked out. She's like, "What are you doing with this? Take that away from here. You're going to attract flies. It stinks. This is just not normal behavior." But to me, I didn't understand. And I went back and I would collect flowers, and I'd collect little nuts and berries or pine cones and things like that, and kind of make like a little shrine to the animal. I just didn't understand what I was doing. But looking back at it now, I was performing some level of ceremony. I was performing some level of ritual. And so I used to get symbols that I would draw. I'd carve it into the side of a tree, or I'd scrape it into the side of a rock. Or instinctively, I used to collect sticks and put them in the position of the pentagram, and put a circle of rocks and pebbles all around it, and really dress it up. I didn't understand what I was doing, but I knew that I was doing something. And that feeling that it gave me was my connection to the path, to my spiritual path. And that is a beautiful thing, understanding it and following that. No matter who says this is crazy or you're insane or you're too dark or da-da-da-da-da, I never listened, and I also never believed the hype either. And so my spiritual path coming to the spiritual world was a quest for power, and it was, and still is, a quest to improve my life and improve myself. And by doing this every day, by the way, you do it every single day, it's checking in with yourself. Am I being accountable? Am I making sense? Every single day. There's no off the hook moment. Because in spirituality is mastery of self. Okay? These people that are like, if you're flat broke and your life is just an absolute mess, well, chances are you're probably not checking in with yourself. Because if you were, then you would know what the hell is going on here. Right? So I kind of came into it that way. It's like a surfer. Think of like a surfer. You don't see very many stressed out surfers. They know that when they're out there in the ocean, they're out there in the current. They're out there in the pool of the magnetic energy of nature. And it's like a high. It's like that time I went into a crystal cave and found, like, I got high, from these crystals. By the way, someone asked me the other day, what's my thoughts on crystals? I personally believe the bigger the crystal, the better. I think if you've got a bit of money to spend, you may as well save up and get a bigger crystal, because little crystals are lovely to carry around and, in your bracelet or in a ring on your finger or around your neck or something in your bra, in your purse, whatever. But the energetic field of a small crystal is no more than a few centimeters to inches. But the energetic pull and the energetic field of a larger crystal is actually way more than that, like even meters in some cases. So that's my thoughts on that. But that's why I tend to have bigger crystals or bigger pieces. Anyway, crystals are a beautiful thing. But by the way, crystal will just be a lump of rock unless you work with it. Okay, you've got to connect with it. Okay, the tool doesn't give you the power. You have the power. Same with the tarot, which I learned in my journey as well, and I'm kind of sharing this too. People that think that tarot is very light and that it's, just this kind of witchy-poo thing, they are seriously mistaken. Okay? Tarot is a doorway to talk to the spiritual world. It is not a toy. Now, pertaining to the left-hand path, I used to perform spells in my bedroom with the door shut when everyone was asleep. I was very naughty. I was a naughty little witch, okay? I'd have little candles in my bedroom and I'd say that person's name that I wanted to curse. And I believed, whoever it was, I started to really push out the energy that I had in my head, whether it was through my art or into the candle, into the flame, into the fire, into burning it off into the spiritual world, that I knew that I had something. I just knew that I had something, right? And I believed that if I believed in it enough and I pushed into it enough and I, really every day showed up, even if it was for a few minutes a day, even if it was for as much time as I could give it that day in that particular time, even if no matter what was going on in my life, I never lost faith in spirit. I always held my faith in the spiritual world, my ability to connect to the spiritual world, whether through mediumship or art or readings, whatever, through the tarot, whatever. It was always just a part of me. It felt very natural. And so my advice is coming back to how do I find my path? How did I get onto my path? It's really, really simple. I'm going to keep it simple. It's like trying on different clothes in a shop. You could try on lots of different outfits. You could be the goth kid. You could put on the denim. You could put on the florally, lovely summer dress. You could try something more sophisticated, like a suit. You dress it up, but you find your style. When you put that outfit on, does that feel like you? Does that feel like home? And that's how you know that that's the vibe, that's the style. By the way, everyone has themes in their life. So my theme, my vibe is more pertaining to animals, birds, plants, minerals. My house is full of lots of things like that: crystals, skulls, deer horns, peacock feathers, tortoise shells, animals that are no longer with us, things like that, in a more contemporary and darker kind of way. I feel more comfortable in the darker side of stuff because that's where the real stuff is. The answers in life and in the spiritual world will always be somewhere where they're least looked. That's why I go there, because I know that the answers will always be there because that's where we haven't looked yet. That's why we do shadow work. When I meet someone and there's no presence of shadow work, the person is absolutely useless. Rubbish. Because there's no self-evaluation here at all. And if they're not checking in with themselves, they're certainly not going to be checking in with other people, which makes that a very dangerous human being because they're completely blind and ignorant to themselves and how they impact other people. That's a very dangerous place to come at. But unfortunately, that's the majority of a lot of people. A lot of people, dare I say most, they're already dead. They're already dead. Okay? So yes, I began to cast spells from a very young age. I would state my claim, and I believe that whatever I stated, I had a valid reason, that I was stepping up to the altar, stepping up to the spiritual world, and saying that whoever this person is, they deserve to suffer. They deserve to be punished. They deserve to be shown a lesson. And so I would do it, and I kind of went with what I could get. Back in the day, it was kind of pre-internet days. So kind of showing my age a little bit, but there wasn't like, you couldn't go on YouTube or you couldn't, just go on Google. That wasn't around. You had to be a very kind of underground operator, and whether it was hiring books from a library, a public library, a school, whatever, wherever you had access to information, that's where you went. And it was just more interesting to me. The occult was more interesting to me than, learning maths and learning, English and that type of thing, because it just felt more like home. And that was my path. As I got older, I, have played around with, not played around. I have experimented, always in a respectful way with the craft. And I've had some success. I've also had some terrible things that have gone terribly backfired on me and blown up in my face. But I had to learn through experimentation what my path is, what my style is, and what is it that I want to achieve. Now, when it comes to the left path, pre-warning, it is not a toy. And playing around with the left-hand path can be like playing with a loaded gun. All right? It really is. So a lot of people that come to this path, they probably have failed in their life. They have failed with their deity or their spiritual system. And now they're kind of like in a last-ditch effort. They're trying to come across and jump ship from the church into something that's completely opposite and probably want some results really, really quick. Please, if you're ever going to hear it from anyone, hear it from me now. This is not TV. This is not Charmed. It is not Buffy. It is not some magical show where energy and magic comes out of your finger or a wand like Harry Potter. Magic and the spiritual world is life and death. It is primal. It is quite brutal. It's not pretty, doesn't have glitter, doesn't smell lovely. It's not shiny. It is a world that is very much rooted in the Hermetic principles, the law of transgression, the law of balance, the law of observation, the law of identity, the law of gravity, the law of polarity, the law of attraction. All right? And understanding, and I understand this too, I can defeat someone who challenges me. Yes. I can help something grow. Yes. I can destroy something from the inside out. But when it comes to me understanding my place in all of this, I am human just like you, and I am a mere speck of dust, of nothingness in the cosmos. Okay? So I never ever put myself above things. I did not create things. I'm only merely part of things. Okay, I don't own anything. You don't own anything. Get that in your head, yeah? And I understand that, right? So I surrender myself to the higher power and I ask for its blessing. I ask for its wisdom. I ask for its knowledge. And I show up, I shut my mouth, and I do the work. If you want to build a relationship with a being, you have to give it time and energy. Because cutting it really simply, the spiritual world doesn't run on the same time frame that the physical world here does on planet Earth. It actually runs on a very, very different time frame. So, and also these spirits, they don't give a fuck about your trivial human affairs. You're a novelty. I am not all that. There are beings out there, and I'll just say it, demons out there that could rip you apart like a doll for fun. But it wouldn't serve them anything to do that because you have nothing that they want. So one of the things that I learned is when we say we're manifesting, okay, that word gets thrown around a lot. I'm going to explain, hear it from me right now. Manifesting isn't I made something appear in the physical world. No. Manifesting is aligning with something and then closing the gap of what it is that you want to bring the thing, time, place, object, whatever, person, whatever, situation, whatever, ... to you. That's manifestation. Okay? So I hope that made sense. But in order to vibrate, in order to get something, you have to be what it is that you want. So if you want love, you have to vibrate love. You cannot get something that's in polarity to you. Contrary to what people think, that's actually not even possible. The only things out there in the world that actually, when opposites attract, would be magnets. Humans don't work like that. We're not magnets, by the way. So I hope that you're enjoying this chat. I'm trying to make it as informative as possible. I know I get into it a bit deep, but yeah, this is what my path is. So yeah, I used to do spells on people to get back at them, and yes, I had some success, but no. Do I do it? No, not really. I'd rather spend my time and energy working on building something beautiful and helping something grow than dabbling or playing around with the energy of a free will of someone else. But that being said, I will defend myself, okay? And I can and I will. And it's as simple as that, all right? I think that if I was given these abilities, which I believe all of us have it, whether you're aware of it or not, you do. By the way, your level of success with my knowledge is not my problem. And also, I might want to make that clear as well. But also, you have to go out and do the work, because if you don't have the due diligence to go out and follow and practice and do it, nothing's going to happen. So if you're looking for your path and you don't have the time for that to fit into your life because you're so busy, well then don't damn do it. Just hear it from me now. Don't do it. Okay? You should not be dabbling with this. No one should be. You've got to be serious about this. I was a very serious spellcaster as a kid. Yes, I would perform little rituals and try and summon demons in my bedroom. Yes, I was very experimental. I guess it's that kind of free Sagittarian thing, is that humans are stupid. A lot of them, like most of them, have got no idea about anything. They'll turn on you in a heartbeat. Their loyalties are all crazy. They're neurotic. There's no safety in humans, by the way. So I'd rather spend time with animals and nature in the spiritual world. Like, say, like for me now, I haven't been out in like 10 years. I could go out to a club and listen to some shit, listen to some crap, and operate on a very, very low level. Or I could go have a bath with roses around it and a glass of wine in chocolate and connect to a spirit. Do you want to say there's a big difference? There's a big difference here. Okay. So that's where I'm kind of at. Yeah. But yeah, I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I think you're kind of getting where I'm going with this. Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from. So finding your path. Now, some people already have a lineage and some people in their DNA, which is wonderful. I would say that in my advice, in my opinion, then you've already got a great, wonderful building block to start on. If it comes from your ancestors, DNA is a code. It's in your blood. Are you from the Oshun? Are you from an African tribe? Are you from the Philippines? Are you from China? Are you a Taoist? Like whatever it is, shamanic, like Native American Indian? Are you Aboriginal? Are you Indigenous? Whatever it comes from, that would have been no coincidence. There's a reason that is connected to you. So I would say if it feels right, it's very important to honor our ancestors and know that whatever we're standing on, whatever is, we're only standing on what was built that came before us. All right. So I hope that made sense. So some people are just stronger in the bloodlines than others. Okay. If you come from a long descended line of shamans or witches, I'm just going to be honest and cut it straightforward. You're going to have a massive, massive head start on the rest of the game. The rest of the game are going to be way behind the 8 ball. All right. Because the evolution of mankind is not going to be with machines and technology and harmonic bullshit. It is going to be in the soul. That is where the real evolution happens, in the soul. It doesn't happen in a machine. I mean, humans making AI. I mean, could it get any more dangerous? Making a machine in the likeness of a man? I mean, are you kidding me? No. So I was interested in, back to the story. So I was interested in like magic and spells, Greek mythology, myths and legends. And I was very fascinated with the archetype of a witch and what that represented. And could I be a witch being a male? Well, yes, I can. Probably more pertaining to an occultist or a warlock or a wizard. I don't really put labels on it. I just do what I do. And I think sometimes in some cases, yes, we need some level of identification because one of that law of identity, if we don't identify who we are, then it's going to be hard for people to connect with us, right? But yeah, it is what it is. To me, it just came natural. And my mum had a tarot card deck. I think it was like a Lemonade. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. Lenormand deck. And it had animals on it. And I just knew one day that I was going to make my deck. I just knew. I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I just knew that I was. And I just believed that it was. Same with my kids' books and illustrating and making stories. I just love storytelling. That's what art is. And yeah, here I am as an adult making stories. Working on one now at the moment about a mermaid that's been captured by a fisherman. So it's all connected, and you'll find that a lot of the experiences that you've had will have a theme, and then they'll all kind of connect to something, even if you can't see it. It is all going to be relevant. Please believe me. All of your experiences are valid, and they are all building blocks to something bigger for you to learn and grow from. I promise. They are. I promise they are. Even if you can't see it, they are. By the way, with the spiritual world, when it comes to angels, demons, and things like that, not so much in the fae world, like fairies and stuff like that. I'm talking about more of the heavier duty stuff, if the more baneful style of stuff, if you know what I mean. They're there. Okay, they are there. Whether you believe it or not, they're there. All right. A lot of people, and I know some, in one particular individual that I've known for many years, has actually got a spiritual demonic entity attached to him that he is aligned with based off his own ignorance and his dark soul. And he doesn't even know it. But his behavior is so spiritually filthy that he's already attracting these beings. And they're already in some level of bargain with him. He just doesn't even know it. That is possible. And of course, that would work for the reverse of that as well, with someone who is angelic or more on the lighter side. So yes, I did spells. I followed my way. I found my way. I got into relationships with people that weren't magical, weren't interested in the occult. And of course, you kind of tailor yourself to match that person, and you kind of, oh, well, I'll put all this away for them kind of thing. By the way, it doesn't work. I don't care who you're with. If they don't have space for you to embrace and support your journey on the spiritual path, you're with the wrong partner. It's as simple as that. If you're a spiritual person and your partner is not spiritual on any level, I mean, because we're talking about the blueprint of like life, like the heavy stuff, like who are you? So, I mean, if they can't even see that and integrate that, or at least at the very least hold some level of respect for that, how far could that ever really go, you know? So yeah, that's my advice on finding your path. I know I've dropped a lot of breadcrumbs in this video. I hope that you've been able to pick up on them. And if you'd like to leave some comments below, then please do so. Try and figure out your style. When someone says to me, I don't know what I want, this is okay. We all have periods of time where we're kind of figuring things out. That's okay. So experiment and dabble with different things, like a taste test, a bit of this and I'll try that and I'll try that and figure it out. But I will say at some point you are going to have to, for the best results, I'm just going to be honest, you're going to have to choose a side. Okay? You're going to have to choose a side, and you're going to have to be loyal to that team. How successful do you think an occultist would be if they decided to flip the switch and change from one paradigm or one system straight into another and just dive straight into the other one and come to the angels when they've been on the left-hand path? How do you think that's going to go down? Or even vice versa, how do you think it's going to go in reverse of that? It can happen. Of course it can. But at some point, we're living in a time, what I'm saying is we don't have a lot of time. Life is very short and it goes very, very quick. So the sooner that you choose your path, the better. And get on board with that path. Follow through with that path. Okay? That's how you're going to have success. By doing the work, keep trying. You did a spell, didn't work, keep trying, keep trying. Get over this idea that it's one and done. It is not like that, okay? If you need to keep that candle burning, you put it in the bottom of the shower, you put it in the fireplace, you put it in a safe place. If you need to keep going, keep going. The real secret to anything in life, by the way, is just keep going. Keep persevering and don't give up. All right? And believe that you have the right to ask, that it is valid. And if it is genuine, things can happen. Things can shift. People can shift into your life and shift out of your life. A little bit like the Mindy or the Mandy, I think it's called in India, where it's like two parallel lines that don't touch, but they are forever connected. Okay, so all things are actually one. We're just fast tracking and facilitating that closing of the gap through the connections that we have within ourselves to the spiritual world, or through deity, or through worship, or through a being, or through whatever it is, ... But But yeah, I have to keep this PG rated, but I hope that all of this was able, you're able to, understand and I digest a lot of it. But finding your spiritual path is no one can be you. You have to carve your own way so that no one else can knock you or hurt you or say, that's not right, that's not right. You find your own way and everyone else has their own way. Okay? But know that it will not last. Nothing can last unless it's real, unless it's true in your heart. All right? So I'll leave it here. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. It's been a bit of a chat. Gosh, it's gone. I love to chat. Oh my God. Oh. I better get back to work, but it's been great to talk. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please leave a comment below if you'd like to and you feel so inclined to share your journey or tips about finding your path. I'm always open for learning and sharing skill sets and stories. It's how we all grow. There is no right or wrong, and there's more than one fucking way, all right? See you in the next video. Lots of love and powerful blessings to you wherever you are in the world. All my love your way. Bye.